excited to continue. Oh, I'm just accepting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Yeah, and also excited to continue this conversation about Africa that we started already a few weeks or even months ago. And yeah, so happy to give time and space to that now, because Belgium was a little bit a priority during the last months, and so happy to give more space and time for that. Yeah.
Oh, Jacob's here. Let's hear from you a little bit. How are you feeling?
Yeah, you're blurred, but you're.
I think it's the background that's doing that, because you are not close enough, or you look like the background. I don't know.
Yeah, so apologies for being late.
All good.
How do I feel? I think I'm a bit flustered at the moment. But I think overall, fairly content. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at this moment. Yeah.
Okay. So you're waiting for a response from Ricky, Lee. It would be amazing if you could join us for sure.
I don't know where he is, because he's been in Johannesburg and he arrived back today. So check my, just charging my phone.
Yeah, Carolyn, Ricky is quite hugely responsible for the addiction program that's happening in Cape Town. He's bringing a lot of continuity.
Okay.
It's actually, I think, his contacts to begin with. So it's teamwork, but I think he's the one who has more time. So it'd be interesting to hear from him. Yeah.
Yeah, it really sounds amazing what they are doing there.
Yeah, it's really
From the
cool
little
because
feedback that I got.
they've been doing it with continuity. I think it's at least once a week or several times a month. And because it's been going on for quite a while, they actually have a lot of data. So they
He's coming now.
he's coming. Yay.
He's coming. He's coming. I think he's also a bit. Everyone seems to be a little bit.
Buggy.
Yeah, foggy, and they call it in Afrikaans a loskop. You know, I don't know. You know, it's like, you know, lost. Losing.
I speak Dutch, so I can understand some Afrikaans.
Yeah, there we go.
He's here.
Yeah, maybe some resistance. Who knows? Hey, Ricky.
He's connecting.
Yeah.
I'm still busy connecting now.
How's the electricity situation over there? Is it the same or is it just as super bad?
It's like an inner dance playlist.
Oh my God, it's like goes up and down.
Yeah.
That's a touchy question, Pi. That's a trigger question for South Africans at the moment.
Like some weeks, like now so we have this app on our phone. I think I told you, and like it says like now we're in stage 1, now we're in stage 2. Tuesday can be stage 5, and then Wednesday stage 1 again, and then it goes like that. And so it's quite, you know, when it's in stage 1 or 2, it's actually not so bad, because it's usually off in the middle of the night or something that doesn't really affect.
Wow.
But then if it's stage 4 or 5 or 6, it really affects a lot of people. Especially have like generators and can allow them to, you know, be on the internet and things like that. And it so yeah,
this could be like a theme for you guys. You could come up with you know, like statements that you can generate electricity from inside, the power comes from within. You'd attract a lot of people.
that actually I'm gonna write that down.
You know,
like
shine the light from inside, illuminate from within. It's gonna work out. Okay, so maybe I could just introduce some of the concepts just so you
Yeah.
can, I'm not African, but inner dance did begin in Africa, so I've got that within. And then you guys can just bounce. I find that this is an important space. Inner Africa has been for me always there, and I want to shine a light on it. I was just telling Lee, there's a lot going on there actually at the moment, with especially the addiction program, and I think it can take the lead. I think it deserves support, and I think it should also receive support. No, it should give support. Sorry, because there's a lot of data, and so what I would like to do is to look at that, and then to look at some other possibilities related to, like, some of the projects we're doing in the Philippines and in Asia would be the schools, and then we're also starting a network of doctors. And doctors for us now includes psychologists, clinical psychologists. So we bring Bridget into that as quickly as possible to get Africa represented. And then we open up that space to include therapists of all kinds. But for now, it's strictly for practitioners of emotional or physical medicine, for people who have had the trainings. So I'll just be maybe casual about this. We're coming home to Palawan after a 3.5 month stay in Europe. We're in Turkey at the moment for a last training. And when we come back to the Philippines, we're going to be hitting the ground running. There are really amazing programs happening in the Philippines at the moment. And the biggest one would be with the schools. So to describe it, let me do a screen share just so we can make this visual. And let me clean up my screen a little bit. I got these Zoom. So we're doing a lot of work with prisons. I think this is amazing, just like the addiction program over there. This is so sustained. We're talking like maybe 2 or 3 prisons by the end of the year, and twice a week per jail. So the prisoners are laying down to inner dance. They're doing art. This is like just a few of some of the older ones that they've created, and they're doing emotional processing whilst inner dance music is happening in the background, and it's just so deep.
Wow.
We're also doing the feedback forms, and that's quite similar to what you guys are doing over there. So we've been showing this across the world. This is pictures coming from you guys. That's the model coming out of Africa. So we're doing quite a bit of work now with doctors. There's a lot of meeting points with doctors and psychologists, psychiatrists, and so on and so forth. It's amazing. We're actually building the classroom. We're building a specialized classroom for inner dance, and the entry point is music, art, and they actually have an aspect in the curriculum for health, and these are all integrated together within this program called MAPE: Music, Art, PE, and Health. So now inner dance in Maya in Palawan is in charge of building this entire curriculum. We enter through music because their teachers don't actually know music, but they're teaching music. This is what the classroom is going to look like. It's being built. It's made up of garbage or plastic wastes and mud. So I feel maybe this could be relevant to Africa at a certain point. We're working with companies. Primarily, the Philippines is the leader in the call center industry in the world, along with India. So people are staying up late and they're having sleep deprivation problems. So maybe I would look at this in the long term with you guys. I feel that there could be collaboration there. I was speaking to Carolyn, and she had this idea or inspiration to even think about proper research, even coming up with proper funding for that. And she might have ideas, and she might have contacts within the university platform. But this is not from Cape Town. This is from South Africa. This is from Rwanda, where she's at. But I'm sure there's interlinkages there. So maybe there's a stage in which the projects that you guys are conducting there with the addiction centers, it's coming to a possible growth stage into maturity. But I feel that it could be important to put in like hours of real work to consolidate the data, do proper research, like what does it actually mean. So I have a particular concept that I've been working on. I've told this to Lee. I'm coming up with like a one-year coursework. It's a long intensive, and I want to open up the possibility that this could collaborate with particular countries, particular like communities. So the reason why I'm doing this is because it's very hard to actually collate the information, particularly like the science. It's not easy to gather what does inner dance actually do in terms of the brain waves, the chemicals, the hormones, the neurotransmitters, the circadian rhythms, the autonomic nervous system. It takes time to actually study this. So this could lead to, okay, I'm interested in several things. I'm interested in people catching up with the research. And I think we should take time to cover that. Maybe we can take a year. So I'm offering this up as a possible platform where we can collaborate with each other in terms of study and putting stuff out, especially even in terms of institutions out there that would demand actual science, not just, like we're making things up as we go along. I feel that Africa could receive a lot of global support just because of, Africa is the kind of place where that kind of support is given. Even within the inner dance community, or, if people find out more about what's happening there, the addiction program could receive support, but we can actually put out information that people can learn, where there are people who are trying to do similar programs, like in the US and in Europe. But I would say that what you guys are doing is really amazing, but it's early. It's an early stage. I think it would be interesting for Carolyn to think about this from other parts of Africa, even Zinzi in Mozambique, where we could start to mirror the program. If it's already working there, it's actually quite amazing. It wouldn't take Carolyn too much to bring some experimentation there, to possibly not just work with patients, but actual institutions. So I think she needs to catch up with some of your stories in South Africa, and maybe we can spend some of today to just give her a brief rundown of how this even started, what are the feedbacks, what is encouraging, what are the challenges, and what are the next steps. I think addiction is the biggest problem globally. I think people are addicted to so many things, and to actually be able to get so much results in South Africa in such a little time is amazing. It's probably because of the situation where the status of people there, it's just so hard listening to the stories of lack of resources, poverty, and people just don't have space, and it's cramped and it's dense and it's just really, hard. Maybe that's why it's working. But in terms of the sleep playlists and the inner dance sessions, we could spread this if there's enough care and maybe enough collaboration somehow, where this can scale. I feel in Africa this can scale. So I'm gonna stop there. You guys just chime in.
Yeah, I think Ricky, you should start. But I just want to say one thing. I agree with everything that you're saying, and I do believe that we can definitely expand it. I guess the question, I'm just going to close my emails over here. The one thing that I think that is a practical, sorry, just trying to close down something here. I think that the one thing that is a potential obstacle, like right now, and it might not be so in about maybe a year's time from now, but just the capacity of us that are here, and how, you know, like, so for example, I mean, it would be so incredible if we could actually support 3 or 4 clinics a week, or, you know, basically double up on what Ricky and I are already doing. I guess it's just also about how many of us are here and the capacity. There are a fair amount of us, and maybe if there was, you know, perhaps a plan or more, some type of, yeah, I'm just like, maybe I'm being too practical and going into like my mind. So yeah, that's one of
I wanna bounce something, you know. So this is also the same with the jail program, because the intensity of doing twice a week for anyone, and right now it's just one artist with some support from some people. Sometimes he's doing it and it takes quite a toll. From Maya in Palawan, we're actually spending on like all the costs for transportation, art materials. It's not a lot of money. You're talking maybe $500 per month. That targets about 15 people. So the idea right now is to actually train they call them PDLs rather than prisoners or inmates, persons of deprived liberty, if we're going to be politically correct about it. They're sort of interning, you know, like internships. They're training some of the PDLs to actually take over the work eventually. That's really long-term thinking. So that's something you guys could think about.
Yeah.
In terms of, yeah, sustenance and.
Yeah, so we actually do want to do that, and Ricky and I have spoken about it quite a bit, where we actually would love to train some people at the addiction clinic that have been coming to our sessions for quite a while now, that actually might even want to facilitate this and then take it back into the community there, where they can, yeah. But Ricky, maybe you want to jump in.
Yeah, let's get Ricky to just give the big picture for now, for Carolyn's and Bridget's and Jacob's benefit.
Ricky, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's good.
I don't know if you know, you can see me. I'm on this phone and not too sure how it all works, but
we've got you
I'm not good on my computer. So yeah, it's been a very interesting ride from day one. And I think at the moment it's just myself and Lee who are doing the clinic. And it's a matter of time. So we're doing like once a month. If I can get in there twice a month, I get in. The feedback has always been good, particularly with regards to sleep. People like to sleep, and that's been good for them. And as we've discussed before, the fact that they sleep is immaterial as long as the inner dance music is playing. It's going to help them. It's going to heal a certain amount. We're waiting now for the second survey to come back from the clinic. I haven't heard anything. I tried to get hold of the woman who runs it the other day, and struggling to get hold of her. I know she felt ill recently, but I've just got back from 3 weeks away, so I will try and get onto her tomorrow or the day after tomorrow to see if she's available, because I want to book the next month. Just for your interest, I don't know if this has been made aware, but about 50% of the addicts or the recovering addicts are HIV positive. And the other day I was kindly given a donation by a friend of mine to buy some yoga mats and some, as it turns out, just yoga mats. And he gave me some money, and I found some yoga mats at a center that were trying to get rid of some yoga mats because they didn't want to do group sessions anymore. And I got some for nothing, but I bought some blankets, and they're gray blankets. And the interesting thing about those is that, and don't make the mistake I did, is that when we gave the blankets for the people, particularly as it started off with the men to lie on, a lot of them said, do you mind if we use a different color blanket? And we're going, well, why would that be? And they're saying, well, this blanket reminds us of Pollsmoor, which is our prison. And the interesting was that one of the women then said, well, actually, these are a lot softer than the Pollsmoor one. And another woman said, yes, I agree. And it turns out that a lot of the addicts in this particular area have spent a fair amount of time in the prison. Yet they are loving the inner dance. They're finding benefit from it. And I think, as you said, Pipe, you're doing it twice a week. That's great. We just don't have the time to do twice a week without getting them involved. The feedback so far from the woman who runs the clinic has been that they come back very open-minded. They come back very relaxed after doing the inner dance, and it lasts around about a week. So for me, I want to do like one a week. If I can do one a week, that would be great. It just takes an awful amount of time. So to get someone in to come and do it, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, like, sorry, carry on, sorry.
No, it's fine, carry on. I'm listening.
I also have a strong input to this that I want to interject. I think that in terms of scaling, if you already have the strong feedback coming from the institute and that they're listening to you, people are actually demanding for this, wanting it, they can see it's working. I think to approach this from a systematicity, we could study if this is going to scale and we can see the limitations, we can't just keep like facilitating. What if we just gave them the chance to play this over and over again in the clinic, or maybe not the whole day, not every day, but with enough regularity that the effects would show up even more, and then the work that you would do wouldn't be even so much to hold space, but to keep contextualizing it in another center, then what would be magical if this became self-organizing, self-sustaining, self-healing, then like we're just bringing more context to it, and then people are healing themselves almost. But then there might be other activities related to, let's say, art or journal writing. So if it's just a matter of, let's say, raising resources, we could put this out in the inner dance community where some people might be interested in donations in case there's a need to, let's say, put up speaker systems where people are sleeping and like art materials. Just an idea for the long term.
So we did actually speak to the owner about this a while ago, and I think what I understand is she bought a whole bunch of speakers for the different rooms. Ricky, did you tell me? I can't remember now, but was something stolen?
Yeah, I haven't spoken to Zulfa about it, but one of the women told me that they had some speakers and they were stolen. So that's all I can tell you there. Yeah. I don't know whether it was before or afterwards. I'm not 100% sure. I said I sort of haven't spoken to Zulfa for a while. The last inner dance we did, she was not well then, and I've been away, so I haven't had a chance to do anything until I got back today, like an hour ago.
Yeah. So when I spoke to a friend of mine who's like a DJ, or he used to be a DJ, and he I basically briefed him a few months ago on the situation at this clinic because, you know, in those types of communities, there's just so much violence and stealing. And, you know, it's like if we're going to invest in equipment, or there has to be a practical element to how do we prevent the stuff from being stolen, like sold for drugs or whatever they sell it for. Like, I don't really know. And he suggested that you actually create like some type of like cage, or like some type of thing where you put the speaker in the cage, and like, I don't know, you know, these are like, and it's so interesting because that they would actually do that for something that they really enjoy and something that they know benefits them. But I don't know the situation. I don't know if all of them were stolen or if just one was stolen. But I think we should find out actually like, so we are clear about if it's actually just a room or.
Well, anyway, like we can look at the big picture where valuing this means that we need to bring it in these different ways, whether it be actual live sessions or something programmable, that this is happening in the evenings. Maybe the speaker could just come in every time it's being played. You guys could work out the logistics. But like, we would be open to all these mechanisms coming into play where we could, you know, look for possible sponsorship to build those cages. But it would be interesting to actually just get them to value so that they're not stealing it, because it's benefiting. Let's hear from, I'm interested to hear from Carolyn, because she's quite well connected and she's also interested in the research of this. I don't know where this could go because she's coming from a different area, but like a mirroring process, collaboration, like what do you see in this, Carolyn, in general? It's just interesting for you.
Well, I'm also thinking more about Rwanda, where addiction is also really a big issue, alcohol and also drugs. And there are some centers, but they are very, I would say, very punitive and judgmental, also in the way that they are working with the people, with the patients. And so I'm just starting to think about those centers and wondering and see, maybe we could indeed start conversations with them. There is also like really an island where they are sending people that are using drugs, and it's like a center, but that is really built on an island. And I know that a lot of even very young people are sent there. So I think there is a potential there. It's really an issue, and it's as if they also realize it themselves. From what I'm hearing is that the people they come to those centers for a few weeks or even a month, and then they go back home, but then they come back after a few weeks again. So it's really not, they realize that it's not effective the way that they're handling it. So I think there might be some possibilities, and indeed, and I was also thinking about even maybe doing some research and some fundings, and I think that we would be able to find some kind of budget for those kind of topics, because it's an issue, and it's really also something that I would say even the government is seeing it as a big issue here. So I really think that there could be support there and options. So I think it would be interesting to continue that conversation and to hear and also learn from your experience in Cape Town.
What are your affiliations there in terms of networks or groups? I remember you spoke about universities, for example.
So that's a program where, to make it short, we are working with 15 different universities in Africa, where we are mainly working on capacity building around mental health with those universities. And it's part of the Mastercard Foundation. I don't know if you're familiar with them, with the foundation. And so they have scholars in those different universities that they are supporting related to mental health. And so that's one of the projects I'm working on right now. And they are very, I would say those universities are very open to different healing modalities, and also they're really for most of them also under capacity, so they don't have enough psychologists for one-on-one sessions, for instance. So they might also be interested in group sessions or modalities where we could that could help a bigger number of scholars and students. So that's also another field where we could explore inner dance, I think.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's amazing that you have inroads to this kind of network. So I think where this could go is, do we have enough to perceive Cape Town as a case study? It hasn't been that long that they've been doing it. But even within the inner dance community, if we could maybe look at what would be initial steps to bring more research into this. Do we have the resources or expertise in building experimental research programs, even casual ones? It's amazing already that Ricky and Dee have put out the feedback forms, but maybe there's a way of leveling up. So we would see maybe this is a possible opening for Africa itself, because it seems so strong. We could think about schools, we could think about jails, but somehow this is working. Because Lee did try to work with the students in the past, and it's a different animal, like the school system. I feel that when you open the way to one space, that's already representational for all the other spaces. So
Still feel very strongly about
yeah.
the school system, and I don't know when it come around
Yeah.
again. There's always this that it like knocks, you know. It's
Well, because we're doing it in the Philippines, it would be so easy for you guys to actually mirror, and we would open up the channels to reflect on how were we able to create the opening, what are we doing within the curriculum that it's really inner dance in the curriculum. And ironically, like we were able to develop this program in the schools actually because of the prisons, because of the experimentations in the jails where people were doing art while they had inner dance in the background. It seemed like a simple enough approach. And it's kind of funny because schools are kind of like jails to begin with. It's a kind of jail. So we just put two and two together, but somehow I feel the jail and the schools kind of go together, and the addiction programs and the medical programs go together. Like a lot of the insights within the addiction system will really help the medical practice to perceive whole systems. Just like in the schools, we needed the opening in the jails. So I think it's all related to each other, but because you already have the program there that's working out, just be maybe transparent with whatever needs might come up there, and don't be afraid to ask for help from the global network, because we want this to succeed. It's already succeeding, but we want this to get to a point where it's already doing its own thing. so you guys aren't even needing to visit it so often. Contextualization for me is the art, so that when the system believes in it, they would invest in it, they would bring the program there, and then rather than just facilitating, you guys would actually train the system itself. And if there was a need to get that model up, we should support you guys to get it there.
Mm.
Don't be shy, for sure, because you deserve support. So this could be maybe looking at possible, I think research lines would be good. Do we need to collaborate with researchers, or do we have enough expertise? So it's already amazing that Bridget is a clinical psychologist. Like, what resources can we get from there? That's could be community based as well.
Yeah, I'm curious what you are also, maybe Bridget maybe has ideas as well, but when you say research, like what research, like what particular research would you need, or what
Okay.
would we need
I'm-
to
Well, I'm not sure, because that's your region. Like in our part, in the school, for example, it's really cool. We're bringing in the EEGs into the classroom, so we're actually going to be teaching the kids brain science. We're giving them basic neurology. We're going to let them watch their own brain waves as they listen to inner dance music, as they do art. We're going to formulate what does it really mean to learn through the opening of emotions, translating that into attention span, memory functions, motor functions. Because for me, the inner dance frameworks are clear enough to be able to interpret data. So we're in over there. I think we can, maybe qualitative data is okay. Like, you guys are already doing the forms. If we can get more information already, those would contribute. But where research would become more and more helpful is when we can tweak the mechanism to improve on what we're doing. So right now we're creating the music from Palawan, but maybe at one point, to collaboration with people there with musicality, you could even make certain music that could be used that is coordinated with the actual theories we have in inner dance. But I think that would be coordinated with the possible training mechanisms that we can hold. So I'm opening up maybe the online intensive that we're opening up. I'm happy to sponsor Africa, where if you guys want to spend more time with that, it could be loose, it could be whatever time you guys have. Like, I could get you access to whatever frameworks are coming out, and if that could translate to different kinds of trainings there, that you can put out with access to more carefully laid out content. Because in the past it was being given in 2 or 3 month spurts, like the whole system. But right now we're thinking about, okay, what if we spend 9 months with 1 month breaks within 3 month cycles? Then you have like a whole year to actually study inner dance. Because for me, one of the easiest ways to learn is to actually teach. So when people are conducting trainings, they can actually absorb material really well. So if there was something happening in Africa, generally where information could be translated in a way that could be understood in simpler ways in the beginning, but could rise up into necessary complexity that would hold more, like responsible therapy. Like, we would actually know what we're doing. I think addiction is really interesting because when we generalize playlists and inner dance sessions, we hold all the waves together. But I think it's really interesting to have focus on people with particular addictions. And over there, it's usually to stimulants. So we need to be able to transition to more careful ways of holding that which alters brains and nervous systems. That's really particular there. That's something many communities around the world are only beginning to consider. So there's actually a lot of work to be done. It could be enjoyable work. Like I'm willing to put time into Africa for sure. I'm willing to support it. And sometimes I know how busy you guys are. It can seem overwhelming based on the whole checklist of what needs to be done. So maybe we need to stretch out and not hurry, not think we need to perfect this overnight. It's already quite huge that you guys have a powerful opening and that can scale. It doesn't even matter if the program closes down tomorrow. The fact that the feedbacks that you got are already quite encouraging that we should go on with this no matter what. Whatever feedback they give next week or the next month, it doesn't actually matter because you have so much sense that this is really working. Just reading the body language and listening to what people are saying. You actually have given so little. It's like 1 hour sessions every now and then, 2 hour sessions, and you're getting that much feedback. It's huge. So that's representational. This is just talking about that one addiction center. This is everywhere where this problem exists. So I guess just talking about this now is important. This is recorded, so Zinzi will be watching this at a certain point. I really wanted Carolyn to be aware of for me, there's magnitude. It's actually quite huge. Globally, addiction is being talked about in Europe and Asia, but you guys actually are the most consistent addiction-based program where inner dance is being given to a specific audience that's not just in and out going to workshops. It's the same people. So that needs to be honored. It needs to be listened to and understood. Yeah. Let's hear from Bridget. Let's see, maybe she's got some dots making connections and making clicking noises.
I'm not sure I do, Pi. I think the only thing that is coming up for me as we talk about research, though, is I'm just very aware of what the structure of research in South Africa is like, which I'm sure is very similar everywhere, actually, is that you do, of course, need to have, especially if we're going to talk formal research that most people would respond to and take the findings seriously, you need to link yourself up with some academic institution of sort. Kind of private research is not really something that really is very big in South Africa. That we have private organizations or institutes doing it. It is all academically based. So I think depending on what direction one goes with what you want to research, I'm just already sitting here thinking there's many avenues in which one could target the academic institutions, whether you go through the psychology department, for example, and as you're mentioning things like neuroimaging and all of that, and looking at fMRIs and what happens actually in the brain, or whether you go through the music departments even, where there's more knowledge based on music, of course, and what happens there. And even if you then, there was another one that was coming up for me as you were talking, but yeah, the different kind of avenues within a varsity even, or a university there, of just one would need to then, I think that's for me the thing, is that once we have maybe an idea of what kind of research, if it's more specified, then kind of targeting certain universities and also certain departments and key persons within departments that have maybe special either expertise or interest in some of these
Right.
aspects of what we're touching on with inner dance, because again, we're touching on many different aspects. You could go in through many different doors. So I think it's just awareness of that, but I think that stage of really getting there where you would hook into an institute of sort and a person can only really happen, of course, once we've got more of an idea of
I
what
agree.
kind of research we're even looking at there.
I think it's the same. It's the same everywhere. We're in the same boat in
Exactly.
Europe
Yeah.
and in Asia, where this is only up and coming as something understood. Okay, this is necessary for all of us to cascade it in our minds. Number one, inner dance is already quite successful where there's a global spread. It's in all major countries in the world. It's just called many different names now, but it's the same technology. So there's something in it that definitely works, and we're in this call now because we believe in that. Carolyn in Belgium had so much happening in Brussels, in a place where it's actually quite hard for people to believe in anything not normal. So we're seeing that everywhere in the world, from Madrid to Warsaw to Cape Town to Cairo to Dubai to Manila and so on and so forth. So we were able to extract the technology in what we call the playlist, where we have enough understanding of something about the brain waves, something about the circadian rhythms and autonomic nervous system. So there's something, number one, the fact that it works already, that's something people can research, and there could be a base there that people are paying, like, oh my God, like there are trainings in the world where people are paying like 15,000 euros for 5-day training. It's incredible. It's stupid. It's amazing. It's crazy. I don't think people should go that commercial, but the fact that people are paying that much money, it's a thing. It's ontologically a thing. So that's not science though. It's a spiritual awakening thing. So what a lot of people are thinking about in Europe and in maybe in the Philippines, we're going to be thinking about it. Are there researchers who are quite near to what we're doing? So I think we're on to, this is on point what you're saying. We need to collaborate with the universities. Is it time? Are we ready? And then are people in Africa, are there people in Africa or in Asia and Europe actually wondering about music? Because right now what we're coming up with is the in Europe and in the US, a lot of people are interested in psychedelics assisted therapy because it's working. So what we need to do is to explain to them that we have something less invasive, less toxic, and less addictive, less externally driven. And it actually works because the drugs are inside. Neurotransmitters and hormones are what psychedelics still activate, stimulants, depressants, so on and so forth. So we're actually the next step after psychedelics assisted therapy, and it might just be a matter of cascading some of these ideas so that people would be interested. I think what works with inner dance is we have a coherent theory. The playlist model actually situates itself within the sleep stages, working with REM models, so that this could be, we don't need to be shy. We can put it forward because the fact that there are people who have been healed by this globally, it works. It's just that who would be brave enough to like take the leap within the scientific realms. So we'll be doing this in the Philippines, and if you guys are going to be doing it in Africa, and we are talking to people who want to speak to universities in Europe, this is going to take a lot of courage on our part. We're going to be the first ones. So it's a question. It's a question you have, and thank you for posing it. It's a question in Asia right now, and it's a question in Europe. Is it time? We're not going to know until we actually do it. And we won't know unless we look out there. Are there people who would be interested in this? Like, for example, in the cognitive sciences, music cognition is a new branch where neuroscientists are only beginning to study what is music actually doing to the brain. But the excitement there is huge. The thing is, when you look at the actual journal articles and research studies, they're really basic. They're super duper conservative. And when you compare that to the kinds of insights that's happening in Indian dance, we're way ahead. It's just that we don't understand it, we're experiencing it. People in science, they understand more, but they're not experiencing it. So we need to somehow find the middle space. But what is one last point? What is happening is that there are a lot of people who work within the institutes who are beginning to go to the sessions. They're beginning to attend the work, and they aren't, the trainings that they're going to, they don't have the sciences inbuilt. So we need new kinds of trainings. We need to bring new kinds of exposure to people, to let those who are belonging to universities and governments to see that this does have substantiation. We do know what we're doing. So maybe it's early, maybe we need maybe 6 more months to study together, another year, or maybe we can do it now, because we do have, we've been putting out information. It's just hard to absorb because, yeah. But anyway, like, that's my take. It's a question more than an answer for me as I put this out to you guys.
And yeah, now that we are continuing the conversation, I think I mentioned this. I have a friend who is a psychiatrist here in Rwanda, and he's Rwandan, and he's very, I think I mentioned it, he's very curious about what I'm doing, those things that are a little bit different. And he also has a very good friend who's also a psychiatrist, but in Switzerland, that he's part of a research, a hospital that are doing research around psychedelics. So indeed, I think it might be a nice way, yeah, also, well, to continue that conversation and to present inner dance, and to maybe through that way, there could be some kind of research that could start. And yeah, he's open and curious about it. So I think even just for him experiencing it would be a first step, and then
yeah, here's how we can support, because the openings are there. Research is really going to be important. So what we are doing right now, and Carolyn knows this because she belongs to the network, we're building a network of doctors and psychologists. I'm just going to say people in psychology, because psychology has these different branches where people are into psychotherapy, psychiatry, or psychology. It's for me, it's all just one. We're coming up with an app-based project that's going to be led by Ahilan from Berlin. He's going to be hiring a team from India to create an app that would be able to share the emerging sleep playlist models for doctors and psychologists to be able to use. Now, the app isn't actually just for that. It's to be able to come up with a feedback form so that every time people use it, they would log on to the app so that they would give, at the very least, qualitative data. What's being talked about is if people have wearables, like in Finland, there's like a ring, you have like the headset wearables, and you have like the watch, like the Apple Watch. A lot of these come with software development kits where you could study sleep cycles and so on and so forth. That would be like stage 2. Now we have already like a funder who's willing to give at least two-thirds of the cost for this app to be constructed. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but maybe 3 months or 6 months from today, we might actually be able to beta test this based on simpler versions. So I think some of the information and context building can come through this app. So we're already going into this, and maybe we can create this we can invite you, number one, Bridget, you into the network, and then we can maybe create this in a way that it could attract more people from Africa, people from the medical community and the psychological community. so that you guys aren't alone. So if you are beginning to talk about this, you won't feel quite naked and raw. There's also Zinzi from Mozambique who really wants to put this forward. But I feel after this call, maybe we plant a seed so that you guys could wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and realize, okay, no, I actually know more than I thought I did. And it just grows on you. But it won't be easy. It means we need to put this into the written word somehow so that this could be understood by people who are not going to be merely just curious. They're going to be open. And some people might even want to, even if they don't experience it, it doesn't mean they can't study it, because there's already ongoing work. We just need to work together somehow. So I think there are many questions that have popped up. Is addiction the priority program in Africa for now? Could it be the focal point where people could be interested in inner dance later that would appeal to like the healing mechanism, or number two, the learning process, you know, like this being used in the education system, rehabilitation of all kinds, including the jail system, or people in organizations like companies, governments, they can use this. We're already modeling that as well. But I think we should start somewhere. So if addiction is already happening in South Africa, we can decide to not have to scatter and just maybe use that as a ground zero.
I feel like that's a really good idea. Actually, I think it is a good starting point. I wanted to ask Bridget, the people that are coming to you for sessions, how does that link into addiction? It's obviously
it doesn't at all. Yeah, it doesn't at all. Oh, I'm saying now immediately off the bat, it doesn't at all. Maybe as by saying maybe 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, I may wake up and go, oh no, shit, it does actually link. But it does and it doesn't. I think addictions and psychiatric disorders are of course linked, and they always run together. Often in at least, and I'm sure this is the way across the globe really, is that there's often a split made between the two, where you've got your addiction treatment on one hand and your more psychiatric treatment on the other hand. And then of course you've got dual diagnoses units as well sometimes. But so what we've been doing is that maybe just to catch Pi up for adding to this conversation of what's happening here. So Jacob and I started last month with a group that we are now subsequently doing monthly. And it started out amongst my own patient base. So last month in August, we ran a group that was about 10 people, and it was literally just my patients and all people who have had and have been in therapy with me rather for a number of years. So it's long-term therapy patients. And the response has been amazing. So we're talking here about more of a psychiatric population of depression, anxiety, bipolar, really kind of your more run-of-the-mill, I almost want to say mental health stuff that most of us in clinical practice deal a lot with. And many of them, we just this weekend that has passed, we had our second group, and the first one in August was, as I say, just all my patients. The second group now was a nice mix where we had about half of it being my patients that were coming back, some of them new ones, and then about 4 that came back from last month. And then some people that I didn't know that signed up just from the community that heard about the group elsewhere through the grapevine. And I think what has already just from one session to the second session been so amazing for me about the people that I've worked for years with in therapy is how amazingly we've had shifts of things stirring for them, where especially around emotion, I think that's one of the, well, 2 things. Sleep, as everybody has said as well. Sleep was the one thing that came through quite strongly from even the people in last month's group, because I've had individual sessions with all of them since they had the August group. So I've got an individual feedback as well. And there's a lot of feedback coming back on sleep improvement. Some of them that have also been on really heavy sleep medication from the psychiatrist side, who for the first time in years, have managed to actually sleep without their psychiatric meds, which is really amazing. And then secondly, I think the emotional management component for me is really exciting and intriguing, because I'm seeing patients who I've struggled in therapy. I'm also an emotionally focused therapist, and I've struggled to hold their feet to the fire in therapy of staying with the emotion and learning to tolerate their emotion. And all of a sudden, they've had the first session where we were teasing afterwards, because some of them were really angry at me after the session, going, "This is not what we signed up for. We thought this was going to be relaxing sound therapy. And what have you done?" Because even in the first session, we had so much fear coming up from people, and huge fear images. The one had an image of drowning. The other one had an atomic bomb go off, which was one of her biggest fears. The other one is bizarre. The other one had a riot that she was in. And it's just fear, 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 fear all around the room. And then this
Wow.
session, they amazingly, I was teary in the session with the feedback that was coming from my own patients, because I was bursting with pride for how they were able to stay with their emotions. And it was 2 bloody sessions. It was the second session this weekend, and all of a sudden, in their own accounts, they were telling us how they could see the fear this time round, but they could stay with it, and they could maneuver it, and they could be curious about it. And just amazing images coming up around emotional regulation, tolerance of emotions, just staying in that space with one's emotion, which I'm really, really curious about. And I've been really trying also to put it out to my colleagues, slowly but surely, kind of piquing interest as well, going, I'm holding this group. If you've got patients to send over to me that may benefit, and I've given them a little bit of a write-up, and that's starting to kind of stir as well within the community. So I'm really curious about also what this could mean for people who have things like treatment-resistant depressions, where they've been around the block, similar to plant medicine. Plant medicine is a big other focus area for me in practice as well, where I do a lot of psychedelic support work for people. And what I've said about inner dance from the start is that it's so much more accessible. It's accessible to everybody, really. There's very few populations, if any, where I could immediately go, "Oh, I wouldn't let them do inner dance." Whereas plant medicine, of course, we've got to be much more careful with assessment and who we really put through those processes. And yeah, I'm curious to see what inner dance can offer for that emotional component of, just getting to content. And also, sorry, that was the last thing, is that also getting people. One of my other patients in the first group also, she got to content in that inner dance session that we didn't even know in therapy was there. It's kind of like there was something lying under a rock that we didn't know to go and poke around there. And all of a sudden, this image came up in the session. And in her next individual session, we were able to go into that and actually unearth some stuff that needed attention, which we haven't gotten to in the last 2 years. So I'm really curious as to, I think what this could do within the existing clinical setting also of
So
treatment-resistant
huge.
mental conditions and experiences for
Wow.
people. And also complementary to ongoing therapy processes, because I
Yeah.
think I've had in my patients base alone, and even some of my colleagues, I've had people increasingly ask for alternative approaches. People are themselves, I'm finding, really seeking something different. Many of them have caught wind of the more alternative things I do, and they will straight up ask me about it and go, "Can't we do that? Can't we do that? What about this thing?" So I think there's definitely a hunger and a stirring. There's something that's happening, definitely, I find, at least in the people I work with, that people are ready for something like this. And I'm really wanting to get it out into the community I work with as well, and colleagues, to see what this could offer for people in that area. So sorry, I could go on for this
It's so
this week.
huge. Yeah,
Just
no,
what I've
it's
seen with
really,
my
it's
patients this
huge.
weekend, I'm like, I'm
Wow.
I like a kid at Christmas. I'm so excited and so proud. I'm just bursting. I was literally emotional and teary in that
Yeah,
session
yeah,
on
you
Saturday,
should be.
because of the shifts that I'm seeing in
You
people
should
that
be.
have worked so hard and have had such a lot of
Yeah.
trauma. And here they are so bravely just facing stuff which we haven't been able to do with
Yeah.
normal talk therapy for years. So it's amazing.
Yeah. And usually once you've actually broken through where there's enough experience and there's enough context, it just keeps spiraling upwards once people feel what's going on from an embodied emotional where they're getting feedback from their body, where this is working, this feels right. To bring up what made the Inner Dance Belgium community so important for me, which is what Carolyn started. She ran that for many years, a couple of years. She got it to a point where the people attending weren't even the patients. They were all they were mostly like the practitioners themselves. They were therapists, they were psychotherapists, they were psychologists, and they were all chiming in that there was something in the clinical practice that was not working, that Inner Dance seemed to provide. Super fast, super huge, in a way that people just trusted it. So there's something in the way you and Jacob are holding this that people are actually able to trust, that if there's maybe like a clear container, it probably is because you trusted it a lot. And it's because of the way Lee and Ali were able to hold you guys as well. So that could spread. And I'm glad that you're thinking about colleagues at this point. And I'm glad you're meeting Carolyn, who was able to do this in Europe and is now based in Africa, because you guys could bounce things off of each other. She's taken a slow break from Inner Dance and now is coming back into it with more excitement, based on after being a mother and, you know, giving birth and all that. But what you said actually blew me away. Just like that. It's like, whoa, I can see where this is going. This is not just a potential, it's already an actuality. I think you guys did really well to introduce this with containment. Containment is the word. It's really important to contain this with context, with safety, with trust. And that's all it takes, actually. So I'm really excited for some of the other people in psychology to actually hear from what you're doing, because you're in a potent place, like in the world, and I think you just gave us like a whole lot of big picture elements that we weren't maybe. Yeah, it's up and coming. Let's see what other Carolyn had a question, which is what playlists are you guys using?
Yeah, I was just curious about the playlists you use for those 2 sessions.
What we use is actually my loveliest Lee's 2 playlists we used in August and September. And what we're planning to do, if all goes well, I've got a spot of leave coming up now, both of us, in September, end of September, October, and I've got a playlist that's been bugging me to come out for about 2-3 months now already. So I've got all the music lined up. So I actually want to put one together myself for October if time allows. But the first 2 we've used playlists from Lee. One was for Lee's info. The first one, Lee, was Dragon, and the second one was Hidden Mysteries of the Universe. Just to give you context.
You can send that over to Carolyn.
Yeah, I love Dragon. Let's be honest, I'm biased, but I love Dragon, but Hidden Mysteries as well.
It's in an interesting mood created.
I loved it. But look, just
by Carolyn, you can have
yeah, it's Africa specific. It came from there, so it's channeling what's from the land. Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, look, I think if I can, sorry, Carolyn, if I can add as well, Pi, one last thing that was coming up for me, I think, is also within our context of mental health, or not mental health, health in general in South Africa at the moment. There's been a lot of, it's been for years ongoing, but I think it's stirring again now, a lot of changing our entire health system to a national health insurance system, which is very different from what South Africa has always had. And I think I've been walking around for a number of years in my clinical practice, just very unhappy with, and I've been vocal, as I always am to my colleagues about this as well, that I'm very unhappy with the structure of how mental health works for us, and perhaps everywhere in the world. I think there's this model of mental health, of one-on-one therapy. Maybe it's especially in Africa that I feel it. I just feel that it's not effective. There's too much need. And this privileged idea of sitting with somebody in therapy one-on-one for years, sometimes on end, and you are in that hour a day, you are with that therapist, when there is so much need out there and we're not getting to it, and our state services aren't able to get to it. So I've been kind of saying for a long time that and that's what I've been doing as well. I've been trying to push my energy into creating programs that I could put patients through in groups. So I'm a couple therapist as well. Yeah, a big large focus of my practice is on couple work and intimate relationships, which is another thing of where I want to bring inner dance in, because I've got a couple program that I'm developing that is coming from my PhD that's got to do with mindfulness and attachment theory, and then within intimate relationships. And I want to weave inner dance into that experiential program that I'm creating as well. So I definitely want to bring it to couples as well, because I'm quite curious what it would do there. But I digress. So I think it's for me about groups. I think we're going to sit at some point with a health system here where it's not going to be this model where one-on-one therapy for years on end is workable. Also, the way NHI and NHS is going here, people are not going to, the health system is going to look completely different. And I think people already don't have the finances to access any health services out of pocket. And I think when NHS comes in, that's going to be a whole different ball game of what that's going to look like. So I'm just aware already, have been for a number of years, to create group setups where people can then, where it's almost more time and cost effective for people, because you can pay a lot less for a group session yourself if you're paying out of pocket as well. So it's more financially viable. Plus, you're actually getting to more people because it's groups. But then plus, thirdly, I think, as I've seen even just again in these 2 sessions that we've had with the inner dance, is the power of group work. Because it's amazing, as you were talking about the trust aspect. Yes, the first session we held, I think, was as powerful as it was because it's a group of people who did trust me. We've worked together for years, and they were able to lean into it. But now already, what was so beautiful in the second session, where you had half the group being patients that knew me and trusted and have had inner dance a session before, and a whole half of the group being completely new to inner dance and to me and to Jacob. And already, I think that beautiful balance of how the existing group also starts to bond with each other, and then also starts to kind of bleed into almost these new people coming into the group, and how the sharing of the ones that are now comfortable in that space also opens and almost gives permission for the other ones to go into their emotions a bit easier. So I can talk about this all day. There's so many dynamics to this that I think is really amazing. But yeah, I'm aware of the health system, and that what we've got is not effective. And I think there's power in group work. People are so isolated as well, that I think that's the other element of why I think group work is important, because people need connection. We're isolated behind our technology.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Just wanted to say, like, I think I've mentioned this before, that I'm on certain groups, especially on, like, I've got a few groups that I'm on Facebook, and I see people kind of, like, talking about depression and anxiety and suicide, and then people are commenting and sending them to, go and see the psychiatrist, or take this, a medication, or, and there's such a, I think what is really important is to find a way to expose inner dance as a wonderful option, and as the primary option, like, that actually people need. And how do we do that? And I guess it's always been how do they, I guess, how do they take it seriously? And I think, Bridget, I think you really are onto something that we haven't been able to really access yet. And I think it's because of where you're at, where you're at in your work. I think you've been able to access a particular space that I've definitely been interested in and passionate about for years and years and years, and actually trying to get in there. I actually had a conversation with a couple of trauma centers about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, some trauma centers and people that deal with, there was one particular company that was it trafficking, or I think it was some type of, like, prostitution, or a woman that had been through some type of really, really bad sexual abuse, and they were really interested in actually doing work with me and having their women come to the sessions, but it never transpired. And I've actually, it's kind of been circling around again. It's been coming up, and Ali and I were actually talking about it 2 weeks ago and going, you know, like, there's something there as well. It's just about finding a way to maybe open up those doors, or finding a way to translate it. And I think that's what we are basically doing in this conversation now, starting to do is like the right type of platform or way to for to be able, you know, that we can help at a particular time, because that would be incredible. You know, imagine that we could hold a, I mean, it would be quite a lot, but if we could have a group of, like, you know, 40 people at a time, and, you know, 5 or 6, you know, 5 or 6, you know, so that's also something to think about. We can dream.
How's it? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, very interesting. And Bridget, thanks a lot for the help for the survey. I really appreciate it. And I think once we get that back, I think it'll be good to have some background. Just for your information, the clinic that we're dealing with, they have one social worker who comes once a week. That's all they have. So there's no psychologist, there's no psychiatrist, there's nothing. It's just one social worker who pops her head around the door. I think what the word connection came up big in the last session we were at. In fact, when we finished it, they all got us together in a circle. We didn't even ask for it, and they did the serenity prayer with us, and it was a round of applause for us and for everyone. And so there was a huge connection with the inner dance, and it just made sense, that word connection. And I'm thinking 500 people, not 40 people. I think we get 500 people together. That would be great fun. And I think we could get half of
yours, yeah.
Well, I would love to get half of Hangberg, which is the township or the the settlement where these addicts are. I'd like to get them and their parents and their aunts and their uncles, who've all gone through this crazy addiction thing. I mean, we've seen it. We're running a number of family constellations at the moment with the clinic, and these problems go back generations. It's not just this person; it's the literally great grandparents who were suffering from addiction, lack of love, not understanding how to bring up children, etc., right the way through. So it's huge. And the other thing that we're doing at the moment is I've been collecting magazines for a lot of these people to do vision boards. So in the next couple of weeks, I will be trying to get women's magazines. I've got loads of men's magazines, but no women's magazine to do vision boards with these people. I've done goal setting with them. I've done a lot of other things, because at the end of the day, a lot of these people we're dealing with, they have no hope. They don't see a future. They see nothing. And so the only way they can see something is if they actually numb themselves with the drugs. So that's what they do, and it gives them a sense of, I don't know, satisfaction. It gives them even confidence when they're on these drugs, and then of course they crash down afterwards. That it really is nice to see how many people actually love it, and with the last session, how many people just really dug it, and how they wanted to look just like get into a circle and just connect really with each other who'd just gone through the process. It was really nice to see. I did this last weekend. I did just 2 people in Johannesburg. Now, the one had suffered a stroke, and she was going through hell, and she absolutely loved it and wants more of it. But there's nobody in Johannesburg to do it for her. So I'm trying to get onto some Zoom sessions. But she absolutely loved it, and I must be honest, she's a great friend of mine, and I was hoping that, you know, maybe the inner dance would sort of change her issues that she has with things, and her physical ailments that she has. And mentally it helped her. Physically not, but mentally it did. So that was quite nice to see. So there's a lot of scope out there from all the various different places. And I think the Hangberg stuff we get from Hangberg, the survey we get from Hangberg, will help show people in other addiction clinics that we have done work, that there is something to go back on, to fall on. We've also asked, we've sent a questionnaire to Zolfa, who runs the clinic. We've sent a questionnaire to her as well, basically asking her very similar questions to what we're asking the recovering addicts, to say, how do you find the addicts? How are you finding things at the moment? And that, to me, would also be of huge interest, to be able to use her to go to the next clinic, even if it's, I understand we're not connected to a university and we're not connected to whatever, we're not to anything except ourselves, just to say, hey, there's something you can go back to. As a psychologist, you're running the other one in Hout Bay, who wouldn't see us, was Harmony, because they have a set thing that they do, to go back and say, hey, this is what's coming from the guys up the road. Give us a chance. Give us one session. Give us 2 sessions. Let's come in and have a look, and let's see what we can do for you guys there. Because at the end of the day, there's no doubt in my mind, and I put something on the group, how my mind works when I'm doing inner dance, and it definitely is that right mind, that explosive thing that happens. And if I can get into everybody else's minds, that would be great. So that's my objective, is to get people to experience this wonder.
You guys are on fire. You guys are inflamed. You're fired up. So many directions this is going to. It's already spreading. In the West, this is like a spiritual awakening, but the way this is happening in South Africa, there's a groundedness. I think one of the reasons why Bridget and Jacob were able to start strong was a lot of people, they do short trainings, like 3 days, 2 days, 5 days. But the fact that you guys were able to hold the contextualization of this so deeply and so for a certain duration, which is connotative of value, like is this worth putting that much time into in order to think about, to learn about, then I think that's why these projects are coming up, both in the addiction centers and in the psychological elements that were so beautifully described by Bridget. So I've been actually waiting for this, not just to present inner dance as a spiritual awakening, but to present it within the system. I think a lot of people are actually waiting for this because it's scalable. When I listen to both of you, Ricky and Bridget, Jacob doing part of the work as well, and this is like Lee and Ali's gift to actually help to hold focal energy to let this just keep spreading in these different directions. Listening to you, Bridget, especially, what makes inner dance work is there's the power of community embedded in the technology where this can self-organize itself. So much of psychiatry doesn't work because of the one-on-one correspondence, where there's not enough time to listen to everyone's stories right now, because trauma, as we normally define it, runs so deep that people aren't able to go into the necessary talk therapy to unravel the narrative, which just keeps going on and on in kind of loops and so on and so forth. So there's something about vibration that can hold the origins of like fear, of trust, and so on and so forth. And when people feel that they're able to find unity through vibration, I think this can self-organize. I think that that's a principle that we need to hold so that this can scale. There's something about the sharings of Ricky and Bridget, which is implied in so much of what Lee has been working hard on, which also Carolyn has been able to demonstrate, if this is going to scale, this needs to organize itself. The energy needs to self-organize itself. And when you plant the seed really well, I used to travel around the world where people would invite me to Thailand, to the US, to India, to Hong Kong, to Taiwan. And I used to think to myself, how many times do I need to come back here so that it would just start to do itself, that it would start to organize itself? The first newspaper article to ever come out in the inner dance, it was in the Philippine Daily Inquirer way back in 2008. The title of the article was "Everyone Can Be a Healer." And there was something about the energy where everyone just rose up and everyone just healing each other. So there was this power of community that allowed the energy to just keep regenerating itself. So at a certain point, once people feel something rising up, then they'd be interested, they'd start asking questions. And next thing you know, you're conducting trainings where you were just facilitating. And this could be with the addicts. This can be with what we call former patients who find the energy from inside. For me, training is a loose word. It's really just getting people more information once they start asking more and more questions, because there's something in the experience. In the Philippines, we started a movement called Transformation Medicine. And within that movement, what we realized is the best medicine is often education and information. When you empower people to get to know more of themselves after they experience more than themselves, then they start to become independent beings. So there's something in inner dance within the vibration itself that allows the energy to self-organize, and I feel this can scale. But what I'm looking for right now are grounded communities, and I feel somehow South Africa, Cape Town takes the lead. I am really glad that we're in contact with Caroline, who, for me, founded one of the most grounded inner dance communities in the world in Belgium. There's something super grounded about that. So now she's located in Africa, in Rwanda. So yeah, I feel there's going to be quite a lot. Let's close the call. Maybe let's harvest summative, integrative insights. Like, where do we go from here? What are the main points for you that opens, and what is the way of closing so that we can maybe look at the big picture somehow as a group, where this is going? Let's hear from everyone, and we barely heard from Jacob as well. So whoever wishes to speak, I want to thank you in advance because I'm super fired up as well. Just listening to you, I can feel the excitement. And I think Bridget was just waiting for a chance to actually share some of the amazing things that just happened last weekend. Ricky's been away, but this needs to be looked at, what you guys have been doing with the center over there. It's just huge. Caroline just got home from her Europe trip, but I think she's fired up as well. So what are you taking from this anyway? Like, what's a way of summing up for you?
I think if I can jump in, I think what's coming up for me is that I think inner dance stirs for each of us in different ways, perhaps. That I'm even aware of, as we're kind of thinking of what is the doorway in. If it is one doorway, I'm not sure if it's one. I'm wondering if it's not many doors, depending what comes alive for each of us, whether it's Lee's ongoing thing with children and teenagers that she's mentioned, the addiction thing that Ricky and her is working on, the mental health avenue we're working on, even the couple avenue I have in mind. Whatever stirs for each of us, I almost have a sense we should follow that energy, but then also with whatever comes alive as we're following each avenue, call on each other to also tap in when we're needing more assistance, with whatever avenue we're busy with. As we tease about 50 people, 500 people, we may not be many in Cape Town, but I think the ones that are active are also very passionate about this. And sometimes it's not the numbers, it's not always the quantity, it's the quality also. And I think even though there's few of us, it's also plenty.
Yeah, so yeah,
Jacob.
I'm
Jacob,
I'm leaning on I think with
Jacob,
us
can't
doing
You can hear me.
Yeah, that's loads better.
so yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm sort of just on the supportive side at this point. Trying to support where I can. I think with what we are running, working on that. Yeah, and I think you just as we go along with that, I can see where we are going and what direction opens up. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely like Bridget wouldn't have been able to do this without you. So thank you for it takes sometimes like a team, and the team can be small, but that
Yeah.
makes a world difference. So the presence is just amazing.
I just
For
want
sure.
to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
something about Bridget and Jacob is that when they started our training, Jacob was like, "Oh, I'm just here to kind of, I don't really know why I'm here, and I'll just see, He was like, and by I think even the first few days, I could already see such a powerful facilitator. I was like, hey, like, what's this? You're actually like a really, really strong energy healer, and you're a powerful facilitator. By the second and third module, Jacob was like on fire, and I was like, whoa, so it's amazing. And I think that Ali and I have said this, we've spoken about it with each other a few times, that I think the two of you really complement each other. Obviously you're married, but with regards to holding space, I think that you're quite different, and it complements so beautifully. And I completely agree that I think that it works so well. Jacob is also more on the musical tech side, and very, very, very strong on that.
That's so good.
So it's fantastic. Yeah. I just want to, there were so many things that lit up for me while you were speaking, and some of it has completely gone out of my head now, and I have a feeling that I am going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with many ahas over the next few days. But one of the things that you mentioned, Pi, earlier on that really struck a chord in my heart was when you spoke about courage. Like courage to stand strong and to kind of go where no man has gone before, or where people are afraid to go. And that's actually been coming up for me interestingly enough, I never really realized it until now, but it's been coming up for me on other spaces quite recently. And I think that with the addiction clinic now, I definitely can feel that I feel more brave in, presenting in a dance in those types of contexts. And I think it's been amazing sort of practice to start to bridge what is actually, there is a very, very big spiritual element to it. And what's interesting about that Hamburg community is they are really, I can't speak for all of them, but there's been many of them that have come to Ricky and I. They don't often, some of them have shared in the group, but some of them have come up to us afterwards and gone, I actually couldn't share anything because it was such a deeply spiritual experience that they have no words, and they're like, what just happened? I don't understand, and I think that they, So yeah, every time I'm there, like my heart just seems to open up more, and I can feel that there's something so deeply profound. And every time I leave, I'm like, like just this desire to absolutely do what you're doing, which is, or saying, is to spread this. And yeah, so I am, 200% there. I'm very, very happy to put in the time and the hours and the dedication. And I think that the more, we get clear on a map and a way. So I think, I'd like to allow this to kind of percolate and see what kind of pops. But I do agree that there is definitely something happening here, which is already self-organizing. Like there's just things that are opening up. But I also agree that there needs to be a stepping up. So I think that we have to somehow bring in both, so
Yeah.
to share that.
Totally. Okay, next.
Can you hear me or not? I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
Super
good.
clear.
Great. I agree with Leah 100%. There's definitely the spiritual side of it. I think one of the problems that I've learned about this is actually when you're presenting this, often is just to present it as a healing modality, and how that the music helps with the healing of the brain and the healing of the body. I've had a lot of people who are in Johannesburg that I was talking to who are very curious, but also very concerned about the spirituality, because it might be against their religion. So I'm trying to keep that down a little bit until they experience whatever they experience in their own way. I don't want to push anything on them. So I'm going to look at things a little bit differently from that side. I think there's huge spirituality involved, but I think they've got to make their own decision. I'm going to go to really from more of a practical healing point of view. And that's what's coming up for me quite a bit in the last few weeks. It's that healing thing. I've also seen with the family constellation that we're doing with the, I don't know if you know Family Constellation Pi. I don't know if you've heard about it. Okay, we've been doing it with the community, with another woman, and there are people who do the family constellation who, as we start, they walk out the room, they can't take it, and there's other people who just won't participate because of fear of spirituality. So I as much as I believe in the spirituality side and it works for me, I'm going to my thought process is that I'm going to really be careful about with whom I talk about the spirituality side versus the healing side. And I find that they are sometimes the same, but also sometimes they're totally different. So that's my 2 cents worth, and it was nice seeing you all.
Okay, Carolyn, you're the last, but not the least.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of things actually. And yeah, one, maybe I will start with what's first there. I think indeed related with the religion, that there is something really there as well. Religion is so present also, well, here in Rwanda and in a lot of other African countries. And it feels that it's as if inner dance needs to be even more grounded here in Africa because of that. And also when I was listening to Bridget, and well, all of you actually, it really felt grounded, and it's as if it made sense, because I know that Pai was sharing that about Belgium and about the way the community started there, and the word grounded came back a lot. And it's now that I'm listening to you guys that I can really see, okay, yeah, it's as if it's like a kind of mirror, and that helps me understand like better what was happening also in Belgium, and that's this grounding is so important. It doesn't, when I'm listening to you, there is nothing weird about inner dance. It's very, very normal, very accessible. And I think it's something that is really important here in Africa, maybe even more because of this, the presence of the religion that is, it's taking a lot of space actually. And then courage as well. I agree. I really agree with that as well. I can see that here in Kigali, I've been holding inner dance sessions, but more sporadically when I was invited, and most of the time invited by a friend who who is holding different kind of what she's calling ceremonies, and inviting different teachers. And so she really had a, I would say, life-changing experience with her first inner dance session. And so it's like a more comfortable place to hold inner dance sessions in that community. And a few weeks ago, just before leaving, actually, for Belgium, I just organized an inner dance session, like that was open for everyone, and it really felt as some kind of coming out. That's how it felt, like that it really needed courage to go there and to start that. So I agree with that, and so it's really nice to connect with other facilitators in Africa as well. I feel that it's really important, and I really would like to continue that conversation. And also with Bridget as a psychologist, it will be really, super interesting to continue to share. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm really happy with this call, and it feels, it really feels as a support, just to know, okay, I'm not alone in Africa.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me try to close just to do a weaving. I'm interested in Cape Town in the long term. Africa for me is super relevant where inner dance is concerned. It needs focus. Rwanda is in particular an interesting place. It could be the most traumatized, one of the most traumatized regions in the world based on what it went through historically with the genocide. But I do believe that trauma is also the biggest opening. So it's just a matter of providing enough context where trauma is also an awakening experience, because there's non-duality that comes about when some people have just gone so deep into the dark space. I honor Cape Town Inner Dance because that's the place in Africa that's really invested in the long term, where so much synchronicity, so much has been embedded. But the fact that one of the communities I trusted the most was Inner Dance Belgium, way back when I was going through an understanding of how decolonization would happen. I was studying so much of the post-colonial theory in Africa in general. But so what I feel now is there could be different understandings of Africa, and the addiction program really heals a lot, I think, because it's deep listening to that's not black or white Africa. It's Africa from the point of origins, where we all were actually just one species. We were one race. We were one origin. So I think this call is really symbolic because it holds a lot of medicine in every sense of the word medicine. I think we need to reach out more. There should be more people in this network. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them are just waiting for something that resonates. Inner Dance upholds Africa as a source. Like, for those who understand that my first Inner Dance experience was just the words, it began in Africa. It began in Africa. So I can't explain this in radical or conservative terms, what that actually means. It's a mystery to me. So I'm just like waiting, I'm watching. I've been in conversation with Lee for a long time. I've been in conversation with Carolyn for a long time. I feel that Africa takes the lead somehow. So this call feels like a birthing experience, us coming together, holding this at bay. So much science has been spoken about here, and so much intuition and spirituality, where a lot of Africans don't actually need the science per se. They need the sound, they need the vibration, they need the heart, they need the sense, they need the gestalt, the big picture, the gist, the feeling. It just takes the feeling, the song, the music. Is it there? Is it present? Is it time? Is it now? So I trust Lee first and foremost, because she's been holding this space for so long there in her body, and she's been the most consistent contact point I've had with Africa. Where she's the person I just never stop talking to. I could listen to the space there. And now I'm hearing more voices, and I trust all of you. So the energy is spreading, and Ali is not here, but she's amazing. And Zinzi, like we're just with her in the Netherlands. So let's maybe just plant a seed now in like some big garden somewhere, and the soil just seems so fertile. Whether we had this conversation or not, this was really just going somewhere. It was just like it's heading somewhere. So I'm glad maybe we're putting like a focal point. I'm glad we hit the record button. I would even share this with the global community, just to put a start there. Let's look at that. I would at least share this with doctors everywhere, because they would be interested in what Bridget and everyone else talking about the addiction centers. So any ideas you guys might have that might be birthed from this? Let's keep this going within the channel. I think we should mature, we should grow. I think this call doesn't give answers. It actually opens up for even more questions. And I think that's okay, because Africa goes really deep. It's not simple. It's so old, and it's so origins. It's indigeneity. It's like the starting point. So why not it also be the end point? So I just want to challenge you guys. Take that excitement, that fired up energy, and I want to say, don't be shy to ask for help, because I think the world should be interested in supporting. So anytime this feels limited, and don't be scared to just put it out there. Like even from Palawan, we're willing to help this. So let's close. Thank you. If you could unmute and just say goodbye in your own sound, as Africa is known to be very sound-based. Thank you, everyone.
So much.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
and
you.
just keep the conversation going.
That's what I'm feeling. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.